how to do time lapses on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, but not just any old time lapse. We're going to start with the basics and go right up to really professional looking, incredible motion lapses. So let's dive in. First up, this is the basic time lapse. Okay, so we can have this in auto. You can adjust your ISO, the maximum how bright things are going to be getting. So if you're at 6400, you're going to be late at night, maybe very dark. That's going to bring in a lot of noise. So find something that works best. Anything up to 1600 is pretty decent on the Osmo Pocket 3. Then you can actually take a look at the resolution. So how big the video is, you can go right up to 4K, which you really should. Then you can also adjust some settings like white balance, where you're going to leave that on auto. If you're going to have auto exposure alerts like those zebras, a histogram, all of those settings are pretty straightforward if you just want to do a basic time lapse. And I'm going to get into why you shouldn't do a basic time lapse in a sec. If you tap where it says 2 seconds at the top of the screen here, you can see the duration up to 5 hours. That's how long your time lapse is going to record for. That's not going to be the length of the video. And you can go right down to 5 minutes. Now, I'm going to tell you the exact time that you really should be using for all time lapses in a bit. Then you have the interval. So this one is set up for clouds or sunset. So you can have 3 seconds, 2 seconds. And you can also kind of look at the time lapse mode, whether you want the Osmo Pocket to put in some motion, like going from left to right, which you can preview that. Or in this case, I'm just going to leave it locked off because you can add motion in post and in another way in a second. Then before you go, you can also adjust the exposure value by tapping on the screen. You can swipe up or swipe down to make things a little bit brighter or darker. And then once you're good to go, hit record and it's going to go and record that time lapse. And you have a countdown on screen. You can see we have 4 minutes, 55 seconds left and so on and so forth. And that's basically a basic time lapse. What if you want to take your time lapses up to another level? Let's go to level 2. Wait till we get to level 3. But if we go to level 2, we can add some motion blur to our time lapses. Now you are going to have to add an ND filter on this. And basically the ND filter is going to allow us to bring the kind of the shutter speed way down to 1 second, which is going to bring in loads of blur to things that are actually moving. So once you get your ND filter on, and it depends whether it's 8, 16, 32, we have a dedicated video to ND filters on the Osmo Pocket 3. Once you have that, then you're kind of set up, whichever you figure out. In this case here, I think it actually did go up to an ND 32 just because of the way the sky was. The setup here is more or less the same, except we are going to put the Osmo Pocket 3 into manual mode. And once we get it into manual mode, then that means that we can actually dial down the shutter speed. So we're going to bring it down as kind of long as it will go, which is 1 second. And that's it. Then hit record and off you go. Now you can see anything that's got movement, including me pacing back up and forward until this lovely man with a dog decided to stop everything. You've got that motion blur. Now that will work for anything that's going to be moving. Now, basic setup here. What though if we want to take things to the next level? And keep in mind, still to come, what modes should you use when on a time lapse? Okay, especially when it comes to time lapses that are going to be long. And here's a bonus tip. Taking a time lapse for 5 minutes is not going to do much. Really, the minimum time you should be shooting a time lapse for is at least 10 minutes. In a lot of cases, I do 20 to 30 minutes, including this one. This took the full big 3-0, which I know it's like, you're kind of bored, but while it's recording, you can still use your phone to do other things like not totally watch anything on Netflix. So on to level 3 here. And this is not necessarily a time lapse. It's called a motion lapse. And it does something that's very, very cool. And it will absolutely bring your DJI Osmo Pocket 3 time lapses to the next level. First thing here is because this is the sun going down, it's kind of late in the evening, I am actually going to have the white balance locked off. So you can jump into white balance, make sure it is on manual white balance, dial in whatever the white balance is that you think it should be. Remember, the lower the number, the kind of cooler it's going to get. So I've locked off the white balance so it's not going to change. I'm leaving the camera in auto mode here and I'll explain why in a sec. But I'm going to have a maximum ISO here on how bright the sensor gets in the Osmo Pocket 3 at just 800. I'm bringing the duration up to 30 minutes. All right, so we're doing a long one. Now, we're still not at the key point here that's going to take this to the complete next level. And that is on the time-lapse mode, I'm going to swipe across here until I get to custom motion. Now, this allows you to set up a couple of moves for the Osmo Pocket 3 to follow one after the other. I'm maneuvering the Osmo Pocket 3 up here to the moon and the sky. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tap on the blue plus. That's my first shot. So the Osmo Pocket 3 is going to start there, and I'm controlling it on screen, or you can control it with the joystick, and then you can go and set up your next position. And that's it. So you can do a couple of positions. The Osmo Pocket 3 will go from A, B, C, and whatever, and we'll go through all of those throughout the time. This would be impossible to do with a normal camera. You could not do something like this without the epic mode in the Osmo Pocket 3. And then you just sit back and relax, and you get an amazing looking motion lapse. And it's really, really easy to do. And if you screw up, you can just press the trash can icon and delete that movement and fix it whatever way you want. If you want to see what the heck a hyperlapse is, make sure you subscribe for the next video. In the meantime, video settings for the Osmo Pocket 3 that you really should be changing, this one. See you on the next one. What? Anyway, yeah, right. I'm done.